Hey everyone, my name is Meg and welcome to Hashimoto's Health. The reason I'm starting this channel is to get information out there to people who struggle with Hashimoto's, with hypothyroidism, or just in general have a really difficult time taking the weight off. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a piano teacher full-time. I have about 30 students right now. I'm a mother. I have a 7-year-old and he's a very active little boy. And one of the things that I struggle with is being able to keep up with him and feel healthy enough to be able to take him on hikes and take him to all the activities that he deserves to do at this age. I have always been pretty thin my whole life. In high school, I struggled a little bit with weight. And even though I was at a healthy weight, people would constantly make comments about my body. I remember one of my nicknames was Piglet, and I was about 5'6" and 140 pounds. So as you guys know, that's a very healthy weight. But that kind of started my journey with the eating disorders when I was younger. I first started off when I was about a sophomore in high school. I had some girls teach me how to basically eat a lot of food, binge, and then purge it. And it was just an incredibly unhealthy way to start off my journey. So after I struggled with that for many years, and I went to college, I continued to be hypercritical about myself and about my body, even though I really had nothing to worry about. It's one of those sayings that really sticks with me, that youth is wasted on the young. And it's really true. You know, I never realized how beautiful I was. I never realized how perfect my body was. At least it should have been to me. But I continued to pick myself apart and lose more and more and more weight. And some of those pictures I put in the previous video. So after years of this, I started to gain weight without changing my habits. So I wasn't eating very much, maybe around 1,200 calories a day. I was going to the gym 5 days a week, doing Zumba, yoga, a lot of cardio. I didn't really do a whole lot of weightlifting, but enough exercise to keep my body healthy. And yet I still put on this weight. And I remember that there was this time I was doing karaoke and someone came up to me and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you have gotten so fat." I had maybe gained 15, 20 pounds, and I felt horrible about my body and about the way that I looked to other people. And I still hadn't figured out how to appreciate the weight that I was at, regardless of what anybody else thought. And so I met my wonderful husband and we moved up to Alaska. And it was really difficult because I was away from family and friends and I was really struggling with depression. And so I turned to food. I started eating a lot of sugar. Sugar was my main go-to. So my husband took note of these habits and he would make, comments here and there, not trying to be rude, but just, trying to help. And I didn't listen and I didn't care because my addiction had switched from counting calories to eating calories. And so I really accelerated the weight gain. Now, I'm not going to bullshit at all in my YouTube videos. I'm going to be straightforward about what I weigh, the weight gain, the weight loss, my entire journey without trying to sugarcoat it. I started off at about 145 pounds when I met my husband, and I'm now at 240. So I've gained 100 pounds. And it's not about how I feel my husband views me or how I feel the world views me. I'm unhappy with my body because I can't keep up with my lifestyle. And I've really struggled with a lot of health issues because of the weight gain. So I've done a lot of research and I've talked to a lot of really knowledgeable people about weight loss, and I've done tons and tons of research on this subject. Even though my blood tests continue to come out normal and I maintain on the same dosage of Synthroid, the weight gain is still really difficult to take off. An endocrinologist once told me that my body looks at fat cells the way that a bank looks at money. So if you can imagine, a normal person, their metabolism is able to kick in and burn those calories at an average rate, while people who struggle with thyroid issues just simply don't have that capacity to be able to keep up with the rest of the world in weight loss, even though they're doing the same exact diets, exercise, or nutrition. So I wanted to show you a couple of things that I'm reading right now that are really inspiring. So the first one is this book called Faith and Fat Loss, and it's by an author, Ron Williams. Now, one of my clients that I teach her kids works directly underneath this guy, and what I really like about this book, and it's kind of, it struck me in a way that all of the other scientific knowledge has not, because it talks about the emotion behind the eating, why we do what we do. And there's something called soul wounds, where they're so deep, these issues that we have, that we don't address them. It's tucked away in the subconscious, and that inadvertently affects our eating habits and how we process food. So this is a really great read, and I'll probably delve more into it a little bit later, but I wanted to show you the resources that I have. So another one is The Word of Wisdom, or Discovering the Word of Wisdom. This book I haven't really delved into very much, but it kind of goes along with my religion. I'm LDS, or from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And this talks a lot about the way that the Bible looks at dietary issues or dietary concerns. So it kind of goes back to like those old historic roots of what God has intended for us to eat. Now, granted, everybody's different, and there are some things to take into consideration, such as food intolerances or allergies, or special cases such as autoimmune diseases. Which brings me to my next book. It is the Autoimmune Paleo Cookbook. Now, I started doing this cookbook along with another one that I'll show you in a second. And in 1 week, I was able to take off 5 pounds. So as you guys know, paleo has some similarities to ketogenic and Atkins, where it's a little bit of a higher fat, natural high fat, and low carb, barely any wheat at all. So in this book, there's a lot of really good recipes, and I'll kind of go more into that later, but I was able to take off 5 pounds in 1 week with this. Okay, so the last one I want to show you is this anti-inflammatory diet and action plan. So as you know, with Hashimotos, the main issue is that the thyroid attacks itself, and it's very inflamed. So with this cookbook, it gives you a list of foods that are not good and that can cause inflammatory issues that may be perfectly fine for somebody else's diet. And it also gives you a lot of anti-inflammatory foods like fish and ginger, gluten-free grains, dill, nuts and seeds, pineapple, root vegetables such as carrots, sweet potatoes, parsnips, turnips, celery, rutabaga, beets, etc. Organic meat, they really emphasize grass-fed beef and free-range chicken. So that's really important. One of the foods to avoid completely are something called nightshade vegetables. And I'll go more into that later as well. But essentially, I just want to emphasize that every single body is different, and what works for one person may not work for the other. So I'm going to be kind of going into what works for my body, but it doesn't necessarily mean that if you follow exactly what I'm doing that you're going to take off the weight. A lot of this is just testing and seeing what works and what doesn't. Trial and error. So I just am really appreciative that you guys are coming on this journey with me and willing to listen to me ramble about my eating issues. But I think that if I really pay close attention to the food that I'm putting in my body and avoid all of those harsh chemicals and processed foods and hydrogenated oils, that my body will naturally begin to detox and get rid of all those negative chemicals and start to take the weight off. So that's all I have for today. We'll see you at a later day.